December 6, 2025, Buddha Dhamma, Chapter 7, Attributes of Arihat. C. Mental Self-Mastery, bhāvita-citta. Page 698. The principal characteristics of an enlightened person's mind is freedom, which is the result of wisdom. When a person sees things according to the truth, fully comprehending conditioned phenomenon, the mind is released from the control of the defilements. The Tipitaka usually describes the perfection of freedom as follows. The mind, which has been fully cultivated by wisdom, is released from the taints of asavas, the defilements. When one knows and sees in this way, the mind is released from the taints of sense desire, the taints of becoming, and the taint of ignorance. One aspect of freedom from defilements is the end of enslavement to alluring and provocative sense objects. Gautama Buddha said that the sense objects are the basis for greed, hatred, and delusion. Also, the absence of an impulse to act unjustly or harmfully guarantees moral rectitude. Another aspect of freedom is the absence of fear, trepidation, and terror. An arihat has mastery over sense objects and is thus described as one who has trained the senses. He or she has completed the development of sense faculties, indriya bhavana. This means that when cognizing a sense object, for example, a sight or a sound, or natural recognitions of agreeableness and disagreeableness or neutrality arises, arihats can control perception as they wish. For example, they can perceive sanya, the repulsive, as unrepulsive, or perceive sanya, the unrepulsive, as repulsive, as well as abandon both repulsive and unrepulsive, dwelling equanimous and mindful. Possessing mindfulness and self-mastery in arihat is called one who has been trained and a self-conqueror, the greatest of those victorious in battle. An arihat mind is stable, does not tremble as a consequence of agreeable or disagreeable sense object. It is like a mountain which is not shaken by the wind, or like the earth which bears all things. It is neither angered nor offended when filthy items are cast upon it. An additional aspect of freedom is non-clinging, which Gautama Buddha often compared to the lotus leaf, which is adhered to by water, or the lotus blossoms, which grows in the mud but is pure, clean, and beautiful. A person begins by not clinging to sensuality, to merit, to the good, and to the evil, as clinging to these things is the cause for brooding over the past and yearning for the future. A bhikkhu who has realized the Dhamma does not grieve over the past, does not fantasize over the future. He is sustained by what is present. Thus his complexion is bright. As for the ignorant, they fantasize over the future and pine over the past. Thus they are haggard, like a fresh reed that has been plucked and left in the sun, withered. In the Bhāvita-citta Sutta, there is a similar passage. One should not pursue the past, nor yearn for the future. The past has gone away. The future has not yet been reached. Not brooding over the past and not yearning for the futures are classified here as aspect of the citta, not of panya, wisdom. They correspond to the domain of emotion. There are terms describing the attributes of an arihat in respect to the past and the future that are matters of wisdom. For example, reminiscence of past lives, Bupe anuva nusati nana, knowledge of the decrease and rebirth of beings. Chutu papata nana, knowledge of the past. Ati tamsa nana, knowledge of the future. Anakata tamsa nana. Arihats draw upon knowledge of the past and use wisdom to consider future activities. Indeed, because an Arihat's heart is free from the past and future, knowledge concerning the past and futures can be used by wisdom in the most beneficial way. In addition, an Arihat's actions are generally performed to assist future generation, as was explained earlier. Some of the aspects of an Arihat's mind will be at odds with the views of ordinary people, since superficially these aspects are considered unpleasant or blameworthy. One such aspect that Gautama Buddha mentioned often is nirasa or nirasa, which can be translated as hopeless, wishless, or without expectation. Gautama Buddha preferred to use nirasa in the verse in regard to panya, wisdom, as a play on everyday word, the same as sattva, faithless. In prose, another term is used, vikatasa, meaning that a departure of the wish for item or the ending of hope, to contrast with the hopelessness and disappointment. This hopelessness or absence of wishing of an enlightened person has a more profound meaning, however, than that which most people usually consider. Ordinary human beings normally live with hope. This hope is based on desire, wanting various things or wanting to be a particular way, thus hoping to obtain or to become. This hope sustains life. When someone is disappointed or feel hopeless due to not getting what one is wished for or due to the unattainability of an object, then the person is considered to have misfortune. When someone is gratified by obtaining what is wanted or something desirable appears to be within reach, that person is considered to be fortunate. A hoper person, however, still has concealed expectation or anticipation that is constantly present, even if he is not conscious of it. That is the possibility of being disappointed or falling into despair. This aspect of hope is often referred to as apprehension, which is a form of fear, a form of dukkha, suffering. Hope does come paired with apprehension. If hope remains, fear remains. An Arihat resembles the person who has lost hope, but there is an important distinction. An Arihat's hopelessness or absence of expectation is not the consequences there's being no way to obtain what is desired. Instead, it results from an inner completeness and satiety. There is nothing lacking which must be wished for. There is no deficiency giving rise to desire and hope. In short, an Arihat's freedom from hope stems from the absence of craving, tanha. When one does not yearn for things and does not long to be some particular way, then there is nothing to be hoped for. When there is nothing to be hoped for, then one lives without hope, or one lives without hope. One has given up or ended hope along with the fear that springs from hope. This implies that people can exist without depending on or entrusting their life and happiness to hope. Arihats have gone beyond both gratification and hopelessness, as these terms and ordinary define being fulfilled and content. They surpass those who are gratified or hopeful. This is a level that is superior to be free from hope, because there is complete happiness in each present moment. There is no opportunity for further disappointment or despair. Compare this with asatta, faithlessness, as a wisdom quality. Many other heart qualities exist, which are related to those mentioned above. For example, akinchana, meaning no anxiety, nothing linger in the mind. Asoka, meaning happy, sorrowless. Kema, meaning secure, safe. Nichata, hungerless. Sandha, no confusion, restlessness, worry, irritation, depression, boredom, fear, peaceful. Santutta, satisfied, contented. Sita Buddha, Nuputta, tranquil, cool. Viraka, free from mental impurity, immaculate. Visato, Jakati, totally at ease while walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. Gautama Buddha emphasized sukha, happiness. There are terms describing the state of Nibbāna as happiness. Terms describing those who have realized Nibbāna as happiness. Statements by such realized ones themselves describing their own happiness. For example, Nibbāna is supreme happiness. Nibbāna is indeed great happiness. There is no greater happiness than the happiness of Nibbāna. This is unsurpassed. This is unsurpassed happiness. Truly, the arihats are happy. One perfectly awakened always sleeps happily. One who is without anxiety, indeed happy. I, without anxiety, am indeed truly happy. Oh, what bliss. Even for those who are training in the Dhamma, it is necessary to view Nibbāna as happiness for the practice to be correct. As stated in Gautama Buddha's word, monks, that someone who views Nibbāna as suffering will possess investigation conducive to the realization of truth. Anulomika kanti is impossible. That someone who does not possess investigation conducive to the realization of truth will proceed to the righteous way. Samatha niyama is impossible. That someone who has not proceeded to the righteous way will realize the fruits of stream entry, a once returner or a non-returner or arihatship is impossible. Monks, that someone who views Nibbāna as happiness will possess investigation conducive to the realization of truth is possible. That someone who possesses investigation conducive to the realization of truth will proceed to the righteous way is possible. That someone who proceeds to the righteous way should realize the fruits of stream entry, once returner, non-returner, and arihatship is possible. Although Nibbāna is happiness, and those who have realized Nibbāna are happy, such realized ones do not cling to the happiness of any kind, and do not become attached or to indulge in Nibbāna. When cognizing external sense object, for example, by way of the eye or ear, an arihat still experiencing feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, connected with these objects, just like an ordinary person. An exception exists, however, in that an arihat experiences feelings without being constricted by defilements. An arihat neither rejoices nor is troubled by feelings, nor are those feelings, vedana, a cause of craving, tanha. Feeling exists at only one level, which is called experiencing feeling by way of the body, but not by the mind. Feeling does not give rise to internal affliction or worry. Such feeling is said to be cool. An arihat experiences feelings without latent tendency, anutsaya, unlike unenlightened beings who have the latent tendency of lust, raja nutsaya, with experiencing pleasure, the latent tendency to hostility, patigata nutsaya, with experiencing pain and the latent tendency of ignorance, avijja nutsaya, when experiencing neutral feelings, perpetually increasing the habit and strength of these defilements. Pleasure and pain for the external source are unable to affect an arihat's internal happiness. An arihat's happiness is thus independent, not relying on external phenomenon. It is an immaterial happiness, Nibbāna sukha, or even surpasses immaterial happiness. Ordinary Nibbāna sukha is the happiness of concentration absorption, jhana. As an Arihat's happiness is independent of external conditions, the natural fluctuations of things is not the causing for suffering. Even if 6 sense objects, ayatana, change and pass away, an Arihat still abides in happiness. Even if the 5 skandha, the aggregates, change and becomes otherwise, there is no sorrow or dukkha, suffering. Although knowledge of impermanence, anicca, brings about tranquility and contentment, Gautama Buddha describes this sukha, happiness, as one attribute of being a refuge unto oneself, or having the Dhamma as a refuge. Another important descriptive term for an Arihat's mind, which covers many of the characteristics already mentioned, is aroja, translated as without sickness or freedom from illness. It can also be rendered as healthy or health. Aroja is an epithet for Nibbāna. Being without illness or being healthy refers here to the absence of mental illness or to the healthy mind, as mentioned in Gautama Buddha's teaching in an aged layman. You should practice and train yourself thus. Although the body is diseased, the mind will not be diseased. Gautama Buddha said that there are 2 kinds of illness, physical and mental. Beings who can assert to be without illness of the mind are difficult to find in the world, with the exception of one who is free from the taints, asavas. These words of Gautama Buddha illustrates an Arihat is a person with perfect mental health. The description of an Arihat as being free from illness or in good health reveals the value of realizing Nibbāna. One may wonder, if Arihats do not seek the pleasure cherished by ordinary people, how can they be happy? And what worth does Nibbāna have? An absence of illness is the conditions of happiness that is complete in itself. It is far better than happiness resulting from temporary alleviation of pain, not to mention the discomfort of sickness and chronic ailments. Obtaining medicine or treatment to allay symptoms of illness offers momentary happiness. The more severe the symptom, the greater the happiness when the symptoms subside. From one perspective, a healthy person is denied this kind of pleasure, but no one in their right mind would desire a sick person's happiness of waiting to savor the end of pain and discomfort. In the case of an illness, happiness is experienced through repeated or occasionally alleviation of discomfort and agitation. Such occasional happiness can be compared to the pleasure sought of ordinary people. The happiness of being without illness, which is normally not recommended as happiness, is simply internal ease and relief. This can be compared to the state of an Arihat or to the happiness of Nibbāna. Gautama Buddha applied the analogy of someone with leprosy, with erupting sores due to irritation and itching. The leper scratches the lesions and heats his flesh over coals. The more he scratches and sears his body, the more itchy and inflamed do the sores become. The happiness and pleasant sensation he receives relies upon having a wound that can be scratched. The leper will remain in the state until a skilled doctor prepares a medicine that cures him from leprosy. Cured of leprosy, he becomes a person in good health, aroja, happy, sukhi, free, siddhi, and self-mastery, ya, satyam vasi, and able to go where he pleases, ye na kama na kama. Both the scratching of the sores and the heating by the fire, which used to provide him with the pleasure and relief, are no longer considered by him as a form of happiness. He now regards with such behavior as painful and miserable. This analogy can be applied to ordinary beings who seek pleasure from the 5 strands of sensuality. Although they experience pleasure through obtaining things and gratifying desire, they are inflamed by desire, experiencing increased turmoil and agitation. When life is conducted in this manner, pleasure and delight only resolve around arousal of craving, leading to increased passion. Gratification is sought to temporarily quell the agitation. With the realization of Nibbāna, no field remains to provoke craving. Happiness is experienced without alleviating an inflammation. An unenlightened person is compared to someone who derives pleasure from scratching an itch. The greater the itch, the more one scratches. The more one scratches, the greater the itch. The greater the itch, the greater the pleasure from scratching. An ordinary person thus likes to increase and decrease the pleasure by seeking ways to increase the stimulation and the excitement, and so increase the itch. As results, more pleasure is experienced from increased itching. A realized being is like someone who is cured from itch-inducing illness, whose normal physical state is healthy. Happiness exists due to the absence of itch and the need to itch. An ordinary person, however, may criticize a person as lacking the pleasure derived from scratching an itch. Similarly, an unenlightened person's search of happiness is like building up and fanning a fire, and then receiving amusement and coolness by extinguishing it. The brighter, the hotter the fire, the more effort needed for extinguishing, causing more spectacular crackling and flashing. Ordinary people conduct their lives in this way. Despite greater risks of danger for themselves and others, those who are liberated resemble persons who have extinguished that fire. They live in ease, coolness, and safety, with no need to be burnt, no need to be on guard against dangers from heat. They are not engaged in the thrill or anxiety of extinguishing a fire that they previously agitated. Realization brings about change in personality, as well as in attitude towards the world. Such mental transformation can be compared to the development of a child into an adult. Adults no longer hold dear those toys and games that were cherished during childhood. An adult may even be amused seeing a child fascinated with the possessive, and being possessive of such toys. Likewise, a person who has realized Nibbāna has reached a stage of development that surpasses ordinary beings. Attitude towards life, towards things admired by ordinary people, and towards the way people conduct their lives have changed.